Introduction, man types and how to stop being an alpha, alpha male, beta male, and the 3 kinds of men: idiots and good guy. Good type beta male. Moms, aunts, and other older women often taught me that you had to be a decent guy to obtain a girlfriend while I was growing up. A man was obligated to buy her flowers, gifts, and take her out to eat on a regular basis. And, sadly, if you followed their advice, throughout high school and college, I tried to be the decent guy, the one that women purportedly desired. Girls would always express their gratitude for what I accomplished, but the best prize I received was a kiss on the cheek. The counsel then modified in college and later. To be successful with women, one had to act like an asshole rather than a decent boy. It was now common knowledge. I tried to follow their advice and discovered that acting like an idiot drew more attention from some women. However, I was still not having the desired results. Despite the fact that I had my first sexual relationship, I struggled with low self-esteem, and I still had problems with women who preferred other men to me. So I looked at the guys who were successful with women, those who were unsuccessful, and those in the middle, and I came to the conclusion that there are 3 types of men. And, as far as women are concerned, there is a hierarchy. Guys who are good, the decent guys, who make up the majority of the male population, are at the bottom of the list. A man who begs for sex is a decent guy. He shows up at a woman's home with flowers, takes her to an expensive restaurant, and orders filet mignon and a glass of fine wine for her. He gets the blue balls after taking her home because she doesn't even invite him inside. The problem is that he doesn't learn from his mistakes, and he repeats the same tactics on the next woman. And do you want to know what's ironic about this? Women, believe it or not, think good guys are manipulative. The woman understands why the lovely guy buys her so many stuff. They're just looking for one thing. It's a typical term that ladies use to describe good men. She believes, however, that he has the potential for a successful relationship, so she can keep him as a backup and have sex with him in the future. And she makes him wait for a long time. Some women plan at least 3 dates for the guy, winning the lotto, while others make him wait months for the day. When it comes to sex, it's a big deal, and the woman makes a big deal out of it. The only difficulty is that he won't be able to have sex for as long as he desires. He'll have to accept her requirements when she's in the mood to accept them. Why don't the good folks succeed? The trouble with the good guy is that women not only perceive him as manipulating, but also as uninteresting. The pleasant gentleman discusses logical topics such as politics and the operation of his automobile engine. He brags about himself and how much money he makes on occasion, implying that he can provide for the woman. She thinks to herself, how pitiful. 99% of men make the mistake of entering a reasonable conversation and attempting to impress a woman with their intelligence and financial potential. This ruins a woman's attraction to you since it conveys poverty and poor worth. You wouldn't strive to impress her if you weren't trying to gain her approval. Instead, if you were a high-value man, an alpha male, she would be the one seeking your approval. The other issue is that a lady in the middle of a ritual with a guy having a reasonable talk wakes her up. So don't bring up the trade policy of China that you read about in The Economist. But don't get me wrong, it's best if you don't act like a knucklehead around women. When a man is an expert at something, women find it appealing. It is preferable to discuss interesting topics within your field of expertise rather than mind-numbing topics. If you haven't already, you should start becoming an expert in something right now. Real estate, rock music, South Park trivia, religion, history, and so forth. A man who is an expert in a certain field is naturally the alpha male in that field. Just make sure the knowledge you share captivates her. Don't irritate her. Ask yourself, when presenting facts, would this information be found in Ripley's Believe It or Not? Or would it come from a dull college professor? Women want to have fun and decent. Boring males aren't it, as the song states. You can undertake an intriguing experiment by monitoring and evaluating singles in places where they congregate. She is with her partner if she appears bored or is continuously talking on her phone. This is due to the fact that her boyfriend is a lovely guy who does not play with her or turn her on. If, on the other hand, she is laughing and appears to be having a good time, you are most likely seeing an alpha male's effort at seduction. It's also worth noting that the alpha male who seduces a woman has a straightforward relationship with her. They converse as if they have known one another for years. The awkward posture that comes with being the good man is an issue. A man who begs a woman for sexual acceptance and attention does so out of insecurity and desperation. Do you want to sleep with beautiful women? So keep this in mind first and foremost. Feeling anxious, exhibiting need, being needy, or seeking acceptance are the quickest and easiest ways to eliminate any attraction a woman may be feeling. When you act as if you're desperate to please someone, it's as if you're pleading. Banks have an ancient adage that they only want to lend you money when you don't need it. Don't bother going to the bank if you need money. Being his friend is a problem. A man has made friends with a girl, orbiting her as the months pass in the hopes that she will one day tell him anything. This is something that a lot of males, especially the bashful ones, do. In the end, these guys serve as emotional buffers for women. They pay close attention as her pals tell him how stupid the guys in her life are. We sat in her living room, and I stayed there for 2 hours, listening to everything she was methodically telling me about what her next-door neighbor had told her at lunch a few days before. He laughed and laughed at me, calling me a fool. Do you believe he's interested in me? I tried my hardest to persuade her that he was a moron and that she deserved better. I provided her with all of the valid and logical reasons why this was correct. She expressed her agreement with me. All women who are with the bad guy agree that he is horrible. Naturally, they disregard this and have sex with the evil people, as she had done. Women will eventually find good men if there is any fairness in the world. Tell the truth. They do it occasionally, usually when they are older. By that point, they've typically already had children from some idiot who abandoned them, and the prospect of settling down with a man to help pay the expenses seems appealing. Women despise men who lack the courage to be more than buddies, and she doesn't respect you if you appear polite and go along with the woman's agenda, accepting that she makes the decisions. The woman should be able to choose where they will dine and when they will have sex. They have no notion that their difference automatically puts them in the just pals category. That's why the decent guy isn't interested in having sex. As I previously stated, women dislike taking responsibility for their sexuality. As a man, you must accept that duty and lead the way. That's exactly what women want you to do. And believe me when I say they adore it. The beta male posture should be avoided at all costs. Nice males are often passive-aggressive. In addition to being indecisive, women are frequently passive-aggressive, which is off-putting when it appears in a man. What does it mean to be passive-aggressive? You are passive until pushed too far, at which point you become aggressive. Have you ever had a woman expect you to know her mind and then berate you when you don't? That's what passive-aggressive means. The good guy will always give in and do whatever the woman wants, rather than being grounded in the middle of the passive and aggressive, which is assertive. When the woman finds this unappealing and leaves him for a more exciting guy in the future, the decent guy will resent how he did everything for her. Good males suffer from envy as a result of their insecurities. They are overly reliant on the outside world. All of his happiness is found in her. They don't want her to talk to other males because he's worried she'll depart and take his happiness with her. Now you see. The problem with so many betas' feelings of envy toward their wives is that it stems from a place of scarcity or need. Soak it up and let it go whenever you have sentiments like this with a girl. When a female detects a jealous guy, it's as if he's saying, "I'm jealous of you. Hey, I don't think I'm as good as those other guys you're talking to." And having that lack of self-assurance does not help the female trust you. She begins to wonder if the grass on other grasses is greener. I know it's difficult not to be envious, but consider this. If you knew you were the ultimate and could attract stunning babes and simply sleep with them, would you be concerned if your girl left or started talking to other guys? Of course not, because she would be the one to suffer the loss and you could find another girl. So, here's a new mindset I'd like you to adopt. I'm on my way to become a high-value alpha male, says the narrator. As an affirmation, keep saying that to yourself throughout the day. By the way, you're probably still perplexed about what to do if your girl is flirting with other men. The worst thing you can do, ironically, is intervene to prevent her from doing it. That makes her the most valuable person, not you. Instead, saying, "Have a good time," is the greatest way to deal with such conduct. When she claims she's going out with another guy, she says it with total nonchalance. Allow her to realize that it has no bearing on you. Make contact with other females. As a result, she is now the one who is concerned about whether you will leave her for the competition. This demonstrates to her that you are more valuable. Another method to prevent being offended by a woman's behavior is to avoid taking her seriously or paying attention to her thoughts. Worrying too much about a woman's ideas and feelings is pointless since, in the end, you have no control over what she thinks or feels. Only you have control over yourself. Rather than taking women too seriously, which gives them power over you and makes you dependent and ugly, think of them as a group of people who provide you joy and pleasure. That is all there is to it. Attempt this. Try saying no to a woman at some point the next time you're with her. Saying no to a woman can be powerful, but do it gently, like this. She says, "Let's go rent a movie." You are, "No, not at this time. We'll leave in an hour." Saying no establishes authority while also posing a challenge to the woman. Instead of being dull, she will be turned on by you if she perceives it as a challenge. If you say yes to everything she says, she will eventually say no to you. And in the most inconvenient of places, the bed. The most important thing to remember is that women are aware of any need. Women are drawn to the alpha male because their happiness comes from within, and he absolves her of any responsibility for her mental state. Let me highlight one point. With ladies, your internal state is crucial. You must first love yourself in order for them to love you. It would be ideal if you had a strong desire for anything in your life, and you had to go after it. There are just too many insecure gentlemen out there. As a result, when it comes to love, the decent guys come in last. Above the good guy is the asshole or stupid, who is on a middle level. Because assholes aren't boring, they generally attract more ladies than decent guys, despite the fact that the asshole creates an emotional roller coaster of turmoil with his girlfriend. The lady experiences both the highs and lows of the trip. In other words, he has the ability to make her cry as well as laugh, and the unpredictability of what will keep you enthralled in your life. What you need to know about women is this: women must pay attention to their emotions rather than reasoning in order to be sexually aroused. The good person makes the fatal mistake of ignoring his rationality. despite the fact that the moron does a fantastic job of ignoring a woman's emotions. Idiots obtain sex because they are persistent enough to turn women aroused and force them to act. In contrast to the decent guys, who are sexually docile, they are sexually aggressive. As long as the idiot instills negative emotions in women, they will continue to do so rather than the excellent guy who bores them. It is not, however, all beneficial for stupid, low self-esteem, despair, and other emotional issues are common among women who seek out idiots. When it comes to relationships, such women are typically strange and insecure. Thus, they aren't the type of ladies a well-adjusted man would want. Despite the fact that idiots get laid, I'm not claiming you're one of them. The good news is that there is a higher level of guys, which I refer to as alpha males, who only trigger positive emotions in women. Male alpha. Alpha males are the leaders in society, and they are admired. The alpha guy is self-assured, socially dominant, outstanding, witty, a leader, self-assured, self-esteemed, and trustworthy. He is capable of fooling about and being playful with women. The beta takes offense when a woman says something snarky, whereas the alpha chuckles because he knows that girls are like his stupid little sister. And when a lady picks up on his sarcasm and realizes it wasn't a huge deal to the alpha, she compliments him on it. Many of the social relationships we participate in include undercurrents of dominance and submission. In social contexts, dominant persons have been observed to mark their territory in a variety of nonverbal ways, including acquiring space with their bodies, speaking louder, directing conversations, and maintaining strong eye contact, because he is interesting and makes them feel at ease. The alpha people are absorbed in their world. Because he is not dependent on the woman, the alpha does not feel possessive or envious of her. He also doesn't put women on a pedestal, which suffocates them. As a result, he understands that any woman would be blessed to have him, and that any woman who is not looking for him is the loser, not him. The beta, on the other hand, is apprehensive, has a low social position, is more likely to be a follower than a leader, is secretly resentful of successful men, has low self-esteem, and is bothersome and desperate with women. The truth is that I was beta. I was irritable and depressed. I desired a partner because I believed it would enhance the quality of my life. I once got a girl and believed my life would be perfect if I could have as much sex as I wanted. It wasn't until later that I realized the situation was exactly the opposite. It wasn't until I evolved from within and had a life worth living that I began to attract beautiful girlfriends over the years, including the wonderful woman with whom I am currently involved. Please join me in determining the various characteristics that constitute an alpha male a worthy companion for a woman, as well as how to attract the woman you desire. Charisma, in the first chapter. If I ask you to define charisma, you might not be able to do so right away. But if I ask you to think of a charismatic person, one of them will undoubtedly come to mind. And charisma is similar to creativity in that it is difficult to quantify but impossible to dismiss. Charisma. What is it exactly? What exactly does charisma imply? That is an excellent question. If we get down to the grammatical level, we can find a variety of definitions. Gift that God grants to some people for the benefit of the community, according to one official definition, with which I disagree. I don't believe that charisma is a gift, but if you believe it is and you haven't received it, I have some good news for you. You can go claim it. Charisma isn't something you're born with. Charisma, in my opinion, refers to a person's ability to captivate, astound, and inspire adoration in others. Ability, unlike gifts, may be learned. It's the same as giving a public speech, flirting, or listening. These are attributes that one develops via experience, not something one is born with. In most cases, the involuntary practice is referred to as a gift, whereas voluntary effort and dedication are referred to as voluntary. Is charisma something you can learn or something you're born with? Consider a 10-year-old boy who goes to school and then spends 30 minutes alone in the yard playing Minecraft. He spends 2 hours on the PlayStation when he gets home, and he watches TV while he eats. He falls asleep in bed while watching a YouTube video on his smartphone in which someone else describes, with poor speech, how he plays whatever the popular game is. Consider a second child of the same age who is the prior one's companion. He plays soccer with his friends in the courtyard, complains about a foul, and argues that he should not be penalized. He informs them at lunchtime that he is going to the circus next weekend and that he wants to see the city's most famous magician. He teaches them about his abilities and how magic works. Then he returns home and sits down to discuss with his folks. He explains that the math teacher is obsessed with him and that math is meaningless in the real world. They have a disagreement. They do it correctly, and each one expresses his or her viewpoint. They discuss about the weekend circus and how fantastic that magician is over dinner. Then, in bed, he closes his eyes while he reads Tolkien's account of orcs invading Middle-earth. Which of the two children do you believe will have the greater gift of people or ability to speak an adult language? It's not so much a matter of being born with it as it is of exercising consistently throughout one's life. It doesn't mean you haven't trained just because you haven't consciously practiced. And if you're still not sure, ask Mr. Miyagi or Daniel-san. Whatever the case may be, Charisma is one of the personal attributes that everyone wishes they have. It is a trait shared by the world's most successful and influential leaders and individuals. Is it possible to learn it? Yes, 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 yeah, of course. Continue reading if you want to learn how to be charismatic. Be delusional if you want to learn how and think you'll be able to do it in the 5 minutes you have left to read. That isn't how it works. You'll have to put in some effort. Techniques that have been scientifically shown to increase charisma. John and his colleagues discovered that charisma is formed via relating and, above all, communicating. In their research, they look at a variety of factors until they uncover the most important ones that can help people become captivating leaders. They separate them into 2 sections. The first 9 are about verbal communication, while the latter 3 are on nonverbal communication. The goal is to capture attention, hold it, elicit an emotional response, and establish credibility. Perhaps you've heard something similar before. Here are some techniques for increasing your charm. Analogies and metaphors. In a simple manner, explain what is complicated. The goal is to relate a new concept to one that your audience is already familiar with. Keep in mind that not everyone knows the same amount about the topic you're discussing. When dealing with ordinary ideas such as house, food, or technology, try to employ metaphors. As a result, a wider range of people will be able to comprehend it. Anecdotes and stories. Stories are beneficial for a variety of reasons, the most important of which is that they allow you to display the lesson you want to transmit in a more indirect manner rather than immediately delivering the information, which sometimes causes resistance. The audience is the one who comes to its own conclusions. You don't take their hand in yours like a young child. They are the ones who go through the door that you have opened for them. This gives them a sense of authority. Contrasts are a type of contrast that occurs when 2 things happen at the same. Contrasts aid in seeing things clearly. When everything is black, the addition of white will stand out. When everything is verbal, adding something visual will make it appear more. Do you know what will happen if you advertise what you have to give and precede it with what they don't have? Questions of rhetoric. Rhetorical questions function in a similar way to storytelling. First and foremost, they focus their attention on you. It's difficult not to consider the response when asked a question. After that, they take an active role in the discussion. They don't have to respond verbally. Simply thinking about the solution forces them to participate. The 3-fold rule. The 3 rules are enchanted. You can see the results here. 3 is the correct number to use when listing adjectives, adverbs, or traits. Hundreds of speeches demonstrate it, but this is one of my favorites. By the way, the person in the video has a lot of charisma, chance, personal moral convictions. Integrity is regarded as one of the most desirable attributes in a person. We like those who help others, speak what they think, and, more importantly, act on those ideals. Show that you care about being fair and doing the right thing, but be careful to follow through. Otherwise, you risk creating a chasm in your credibility. Describe how a group of people feels. Understanding others' feelings and being able to demonstrate and stir what you have in common are 2 qualities that will boost your charisma. We prefer to associate with people who share our interests and challenges. You'll end up as far away from a mile view as the poles if you talk to him about your son's equestrian troubles or the cost of spare components for your Porsche. You will have his entire attention if you talk to him about how difficult it is to make ends meet. Establish challenging goals. We don't cherish the simple. It isn't done. To keep it simple, you don't have to be extraordinary. We admire people who accomplish seemingly impossible goals. Those who presented something seemingly unattainable one day and eventually succeeded. Who inspires you the most? The one who runs 5 kilometers or the person who completes an Ironman? Show self-assurance and confidence. People who are charismatic are usually trustworthy. People must believe you when you tell them something, that you are certain it is correct and that it is achievable. Confidence is a necessary quality for exuding charisma. It will be more difficult for others to believe in you if you don't believe in yourself. Gesticulate in a natural and lively way. A discourse that is accompanied by movements that dress the message generates more good attributes. Just as a person transmits more qualities and virtues when dressed than when dressed in balls. Do not speak with your hands dangling or your shoulders stooped forward. Maintain an upright posture and make unafraid gestures. Take note of how people converse on the bar terraces when they are not under any duress. There is no such thing as an immovable trunk. Identical facial expressions. One of the simplest methods to spot a lie is to look for a person's facial expression that does not match what he says. And the falsehood is an opponent of moral values and integrity. Maybe that's why so many politicians lack the charisma they previously possessed. Do you wish to obtain it? Begin by being consistent. The voice's vibrant and diverse tone. Consider who you'd like to hear from. You then go to YouTube to see their videos. It's the one that makes you turn on Facebook's sound. It's the one for which you'd pay money to hear it live. It most likely provides 3-dimensional vocal variety. Speed, pitch, and volume. The first step to becoming charismatic is to make yourself palatable. Or can you think of a charismatic person you don't want to listen to? Aside from that, there are 5 more strategies that might help you build charisma. Invoke a sense of urgency. Persuasion. Use repetition. And talk about sacrifice and effort. Use a tale to compare or motivate others. And use comedy in your interactions. The basis for charisma in science. We all know people who, without any pomp or bother, manage to be the center of attention at every social event simply by being present. Many of them are movie or television stars, sadly. We are seeing fewer and fewer of these characters in politics, but we will also have encountered some of them in our professional lives. The inspiring boss, the charming commercial, or their fascinating charm that has interfered with our romantic intentions. Is it innate, or the result of a protracted learning process and the development of social skills? Is a charismatic guy charismatic because he acts in a certain way or because his spell has enchanted all of his companions? According to the researchers, it's the latter. Several research have been conducted to determine what characteristics constitute charismatic people, which should not be mistaken with uncontrollable egomaniacs who, on average, cause more rejection than acceptance. As John T. Marcus pointed out half a century ago, a charismatic leader is one who inspires others around him to bring out the best in them, which explains how historical giants like Adolf Hitler, Winston Churchill, and Charles de Gaulle were able to achieve such success. Despite their differences, they all had one thing in common: a vision and the capacity for his followers to identify with it. Leaders pay attention to and do not criticize their subordinates. Recent research, on the other hand, has clarified what it is that makes someone charismatic. As J. Conger, one of the most dedicated social scientists to the subject, points out, it's not just about being one, but also about acting like one. Conger adds in his book The Charismatic Leader that the deciding aspect in being a leader, as well as bomb-proof credibility, is the intensity of your acts. But what are the activities that set these untouchable leaders apart? Here are a few that Conger and his colleagues have come up with throughout the years. They pay attention to make those around you feel valued. The charismatic leader must listen carefully to them, take time to evaluate their views, and not consider their thoughts to be superior to others. No charismatic leader can expect others to trust them if they believe their superior consistently disregards other people's ideas in favor of their own. Furthermore, they are strong communicators since they make people feel valued even if their ideas are ultimately rejected. And communication skills are essential for this. Inspire and build confidence. It is attained via experience and good action, particularly the ability to recognize and correct one's own errors, as well as the ability to help others realize one's triumphs and faults in the proper proportions. A leader who has lost his credibility will almost never be looked up to by his following. Furthermore, they can act as inspiration to their colleagues by highlighting their qualities and relativizing the flaws that we all share. They are not followers of the herd. The most valuable people are capable of recognizing an error or unfairness in their environment and initiating the required steps to correct it. Something can be enhanced by a charismatic person, and this necessitates their leadership. Their dissatisfaction motivates them to take action, and action leads to change. They are foreigners. It's no longer enough to have a fantastic idea, be knowledgeable in certain sectors, or be extremely productive. They must also produce a unique and non-transferable initiative that sets them apart from their colleagues. The leader can take on any organization, no matter how ambitious, if they can build this vision in the proper way, attract their followers without manipulating them, and acquire their trust through the right ways. After all, your charisma is directly proportional to the height of your vision. People that are charismatic lead by example and are willing to make sacrifices. They take chances and make sacrifices. Leaders must lead by example in order to realize their unique vision. As a result, they must act in accordance with the ideas they promote. You can't expect folks to trust you if you ask for something you're not willing to offer. The difference between a leader who displays his face and one who conceals or, worse yet, consistently places the blame for failures on their peers is being the first to aid, realize the risk of failure, and embrace the repercussions of a bad decision. They are resourceful. A charismatic person is distinguished from a just competent one by their wit and ability to forsake preconceived notions. Their ambitions are distinct from those of other conforming mortals, necessitating the development of a unique skill set to assist them in spearheading undertakings. If they are always fighting the imposed status quo, their weapons for change cannot be the same. If they want to reach a target audience who is used to receiving specific messages, they'll have to employ a different mode of expression than usual. You're probably aware that if you want various results, you'll need to use alternative ways. They do not pass judgment on others, even if they have made mistakes. Chatting behind their colleagues' back simply undermines their colleagues' trust, as they fear that they will be the target of unpleasant comments from the smartass on multiple times. The most charismatic people are most charismatic because they appear human. It may appear strange, but they understand that everyone may make a mistake, even if they know how to disguise it well, and that the most important thing is not to repeat it. Of course, it's crucial not to succumb to the arrogance of individuals who believe that other people's mistakes are so common that it's preferable to grow used to them. They use the word we rather than myself. Egocentricity is not a typical trait among charismatic people. Yes, it involves others in one's endeavor. It's critical that all employees feel like they're on the same team, not just coworkers helping the boss run his business. The most important thing is that everyone works toward a common goal and that everyone plays the part that the firm requires, not the leader's personal pleasure. Men and women with a specific charisma for preaching, counseling people, and understanding and transmitting God exist, but they have not necessarily created a religious community. It appears pretty common to speak of charisms at the beginning of the 3rd millennium, and knowing what this term means or seeks to mean is useful if our goal is to awaken the charism. If we are to center life in the consecrated identity, we must have precise ideas about this concept. I attract people not because I am an extrovert, above average, or use charisma, but because I care about these people, says a charming person. That sentence, I believe, encompasses much of the truth of charisma. You might be more influential and persuasive if you try to apply these methods like a button. Even so, you're unlikely to enter the realm of charismatic individuals. You don't have to utilize strategies as buttons if you want to be charismatic. If you want to have that personal attraction that appears to be reserved for a select few, they must be a part of your character and way of life. And the most effective method to begin involving them is to demonstrate genuine concern for others. Is having charisma important for flirting and other aspects of our lives? Or can we get by without it? What's the best way to get your hands on it? Recently, an entry was written regarding how the Pareto principle is applied to the sex industry. Or how many people tell you that only 20% of the male population gets it hot, and on top of it without ever having a run-in with a female. Now, it appears that it is no longer even 20%. Some enlightened individuals claim that it is now barely 5%. This isn't a prank. I imagine we'll be talking about 2% in 3 years, and negative digits in 10. Flirting isn't as simple as taking out the torpedo and pounding it with the same power and claw as crushing almonds. However, it is not as tough as sending a human manned spacecraft to one of Jupiter's moons. I believe the last girl I messed with was from that part of the solar system. Because we're here, I'm going to tell you something. Don't get too worked up over it. When a 35-year-old man tells me he's having difficulties keeping his cock erect, I get a little freaked out. When you dig a bit further, you'll find that they're usually males who have been with the same ant for more than 10 years, and who is becoming increasingly ugly and awful. I'll give you an example to help you comprehend what we're talking about. In Barcelona, I met a guy who had a fantastic doll painting in his living room. We all glance at him when the 4 guys on duty gather at his home. It was unavoidable. The work's owner, though, was unconcerned. Every day, I was tired of seeing her. Seeing Dal was for him like seeing the toaster in the kitchen. Many guys experience something similar. They lose their sexual appetite simply by fucking the same woman. It's a catastrophe, to say the least. I don't have those issues because I am a firm believer in polygamy. I'm becoming increasingly enthusiastic, to the point where, if this does not come to a halt, I will become a senior citizen. Down soldier syndrome doesn't affect some of my pals who have a girlfriend or wife. I suppose it's a personal thing. He had met a girl who appeared to be normal this weekend. During the appointment, I saw a few odd things, but none of them triggered my anti-crazy arachnid sense. I took her home after kissing, licking, and snitching. I tossed the jackfruit on the bed, and she removed my pants due to the heat. I was convinced that the lady was going to suck off my underwear when she got her head close to it. But instead of examining it, she commented on its quality and design within a few seconds. I ignored it and went about my work as usual. I removed the condoms as the situation progressed. The girl began to extol the merits of that particular kind of condoms, as well as bizarre stories about how she had used them. I started undressing her without paying much attention to her. She piled on top of me, mechanically forced my cock inside her, and started talking about the things in my room. Attention, for instance, the wardrobe, a poof for storing clothing, or even a painting I purchased from a Basque friend. While doing so, her waist moved. I tried to get her to come over to me and climb to the top, but the child was too preoccupied with her ball to see me. As if I wasn't already fuck-nailing her. I couldn't help myself in the end, and the torpedo shattered. Yes, I was unable to continue. I attempted unsuccessfully to return it to its previous rocky state, but it was impossible. The weirdest part is that the girl was offended. "Don't you like my tits?" or anything along those lines. Don't I pique your interest? As if she'd been flawless, and I'd been as disagreeable as a pail of raccoon feces. This has only happened to me 3 times, as far as I can remember. The other 2 were due to an out-of-the-ordinary stench emanating from one of her cunt. I honestly considered asking if he kept a corpse in there since it was that revolting. The other reason was that when I pulled her pants down, I noticed a huge scab between her hairs from a wound. I was disgusted. This lady was also enraged by me. It's part of what it's like to be a person to find oneself in difficult situations from time to time. Today, however, I'd want to discuss fucking charm. Why? Some of you have recently inquired as to how to operate it. What is charisma? Exactly. It is the power of some people to captivate and fascinate others, according to the Royal Spanish Academy. Unfortunately, it's a common topic in those seduction manuals that try to fill your head with ineffective and imaginative nonsense in order to keep your virginity. You hand the tickets over to the fucking genius on duty at the same time. Let's face it, we all want to be magnetic people who can captivate others, especially when it comes to beautiful girls who want to jump off a cliff with their ass in pomp and moist pussy to land on our imposing Hercules column. I believe charisma can be cultivated either purposefully or unconsciously. It is, however, complete. The typical charismatic person who everyone likes is at all parties and attracts the attention of girls who don't leave the home without their Hello Kitty underwear. Probably someone who has made a small attempt to grasp how human interactions operate since he was a child. For instance, when spoken to, a common attribute connected with charisma in this male prototype is a lot of smiling. Perhaps one of these jerks learned at a young age that displaying his teeth brought about a greater sense of harmony and good vibes, and he practiced it until it became second nature to him. I say this because the image gurus for the popular party, for example, instruct their leaders that they must smile even while dealing with difficult matters or responding to vicious accusations. They have the exact opposite impact, according to logic. Richard, for instance, is perpetually cheerful. He appears to be a psycho killer rather than charismatic. Leadership ability is another quality related with charm. Come on, you can't help but have an impact on other people's lives and perceptions of reality. Again, you must have learned to give others reasons to follow you first. The usual douchebag who goes with the cigar and hides at the doors of bars while smoking a joint and tells you about the last night of the crazy party, for example, knows it's cool in the underworld of the neighborhood youth. He is quite aware that he does and says things that most people would never consider. He is well aware that he is a hero amongst the youth. He understands that blondes prefer bad lads who offer them to sit in the rear seat of their new car. He understands that he is the fucking master in that setting and among that age group, and that as a result, others will adore and copy him. However, I don't think it will go down well with the elderly or even the Peppa Pig fan club. This means that the charism is frequently linked to a specific setting. A scientific professor, for example, could be funnier and cooler than the others but still be a nerd. Not particularly macho and dull to the female viewers of Tele5. Perhaps a man with a unique way of playing the saxophone, such as John Zorn, is a visionary genius to emulate for some, while for others he is little more than a madman who plays badly and, on top of that, irrationally. Sometimes a person's charisma is derived from their work rather than their personality. For example, during shows, The Rock tends to spit on me and my progeny, which I do not have at the time due to financial constraints. It's something I'm aware of. When you have individuals under your command, you are forced to not only earn respect for yourself, but also to earn the trust of others. It's a skill that you learn. If you want others to pay attention to you, you need to be charismatic. In reality, for the past few years, a strange occurrence has been occurring. Many nerds pursue engineering because they lack social skills and believe they will not have to interact with others much. The higher they rise, however, the more presentations, talks, client meetings, and other activities they must undertake. This is because businesses are becoming increasingly reliant on technology, and for particular purposes, they require advocates who are experts in the field rather than graduates in business administration or economics. It's a lot easier to educate an engineer the 4 fundamentals of business than it is to teach a clerk technicalities. So much so that the majority of financial geniuses in the same city of London come from fields like mathematics, physics, or engineering. To put it another way, they must put on the outfit, become visible, and, of course, develop some charisma. Some extreme nerds, the kind who have scrawled on their faces that they like to play Fortnite and who have sores on their dicks from hammering it daily and every hour, have become true leaders highly regarded by their peers. Is it now possible to generate charisma in women? Certainly, some men flirt because they are charismatic to an unhealthy degree. And, while many of you have other attributes, such as a body that looks like a nice bag of goblins, hey, I'm not saying I miss them all that much. Damn it, you should not overlook charisma. Why? Because, for example, there could be others who are just as good as you and, on top of that, don't stink like boredom. And the brain only allows me to lift dumbbells and not spit on myself, as I've already demonstrated. Even if you're as mesmerizing as a croquet game and more clothes than the typical Catalan, who labels all Spaniards who traverse Europe as fascists, you may develop your charisma. This isn't a prank. There are some that are even crazy. At the same time that the pod is removed, the radar is triggered. Oh, see, says the character, some random perfins, about which I have no absolute knowledge, that may be insulting sense motion in an unnecessary way. This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance. Pharaoh, it's time to get up and about. Fakesists, 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 fakesists. Yes, exactly. Returning to the nitty-gritty, it might be instructive to ask oneself a few questions. For instance, how can I make myself more appealing in a specific setting? How do I like myself without turning into a clown or getting obnoxious? I'm not sure how I'm going to get rid of my monotony. Similarly, not only will you be adept at playing slimy cunts, but you'll also be good at life. So far, so good. When charismatic people wear a plain flat blue sweater, For example, it looks wonderful and trendy. Why? They can put it on because they know how. They were worried that their clothing might be too provocative. In any case, there's no need to be obsessed with the topic. Keep this in mind at all times. Your charm will grow in direct proportion to how engaging your life, inner world, and expertise are. Assume you know how to demonstrate it in a charming manner to others. In such situation, you'll see how relatives and aunts will rely on you for everything with no effort on their part, how no one will do you a favor, or how sexual, job, and other offers will be poured on you. Another sort. You should also remember that there is no such thing as a uniform type of charisma, contrary to what certain sons of bitches claim in order to fill your brain with nonsense. Some people capture because they are odd, but others captivate because they are so ordinary and hearty that they inadvertently enjoy them and spread their happiness. Some people are charming because they have more balls than the rest of them, while others are captivating because they know how to speak to magazine models without shaking their heads or putting them on a pedestal. You must determine which qualities of yourself you can improve or extend in order to serve as a point of reference on an axis around which many people rotate for various reasons. It's something I advocate because it's fucking great when a superior approaches you and acknowledges that this or that has worked or that a compromising scenario has been averted due of you. It's cool when a 25-year-old youngster approaches you and tells you that you taught him more than all of his university classes combined. Or when an aunt says she enjoys spending time with you and kisses your neck. Charisma seduces. Let's investigate what seduction means. It includes topics like his relationships with persons of the opposite sex, persuasion, and more. If you develop charisma, you will not only increase your attractiveness to people of the opposite sex, but you will also have the opportunity to advance in your career, make many more friends, and work on a variety of projects because others will want to help you, or at least will be willing to do so. It will be less difficult to persuade them. It is fantastic to seduce with charisma. This seduction is more emotional and spiritual than traditional seduction, which is frequently indirect or direct. Seducing with charisma does not always imply driving women or men insane with want to have sexual relations with you. That isn't the main point. They will, however, develop an emotional bond with you. Charisma seduces the masses by its very nature. When he employed his public speaking abilities, I was able to confirm this. I'm well aware that monotonous monologues and pointless stories bore people. They want to feel something special and experience emotions. I attempted to be hilarious whenever I delivered a speech or a presentation to increase my charisma. I started telling anecdotes that impacted me greatly. Several individuals approached me as I exited the platform to thank me on the positive message I had delivered, and others hugged me. And a lady informed me to my astonishment that she liked my presentations, she liked my style of thinking, and, most importantly, she liked seeing herself reflected in me. I've used charisma to effectively woo people on numerous times, including one time when I was in another city. I went out on the street to meet people and discovered that I was only there to meet people who shared my enthusiasm for the concept. Suddenly, I stated a few things about myself and demonstrated my personality, which attracted them despite the fact that they were of the same sex. This is what charismatic seduction can achieve. While it isn't particularly sexy, it goes deeper than anything you've studied about seduction thus far. To attract with charisma, you must have a high level of self-assurance and optimism. Many people live in a very passive and monotonous condition all of the time. They are not easily seduced, so they go to discos to try their luck with alcoholic beverages. They assume that by drinking and leaning against the bar, the woman of their dreams would emerge and invite them to her house. You gain outcomes in life by doing rather than waiting. To me, this kind of action is deplorable. Learn to be happy and positive if you wish to charm with charisma. Girls enjoy being around positive and cheery men. And most of all, these types of women will assist you in your quest for self-improvement. It's well worth the effort, I'm sure. Some ladies prefer the awful guys, the serious ones, the unattainable, the miserable ones, the ones from the shadows. Leave them to their tastes. These types of girls are unlikely to bring anything positive into your life. Instead, look for the ones who will. That is why, when looking for a spouse, appealing with charm is good because it attracts wonderful people into your life. When it comes to actors, this is always the case. They have become huge Hollywood stars as a result of their influence, and they do what they love. They are content with their profession. As a result, when you watch them talk, you can tell that they exude success through their charm, and they manage to entice you for no apparent reason. George Clooney, for example, is an actor that I enjoy hearing about. With his sense of humor and self-assurance, he entices the vast majority of those who know him to spend more time with him. And I admit it, I want to be around someone like him, no matter how foolish he is. Take Jim Carrey, for example. He never stops being funny in the movies, and even in the interviews he gives on television, and the public adores him. He is tremendously successful on the big screen because he is unlike anybody else on the planet. He is one of a kind and original. In the film industry, there are other cases similar to this. Politics, religions, sports, business, and other fields are all affected in the same way. Someone always stands out for his personality, and it isn't always the one with the most money or the most physical appearance, but rather the one who can entice others with charm. Seducing with charisma isn't about smiling all the time or talking non-stop. It's about making other people feel good while revealing facts about your beautiful nature. For example, you can demonstrate your leadership when you're in a group of friends and you're the one who suggests new ideas. You're the one who asks others to make the toast, and everyone follows your lead. Self-assurance and a decent sense of humor will also benefit you a lot. You're on the right road if you notice that others admire your style of thinking, or if you discover that someone has plagiarized your famous phrases. If you notice that others aspire to be like you, you're on the correct track. Seducing with charisma is seducing others by displaying appealing personality features while eliciting pleasant emotions in others. Whether in romantic relationships or in the wider public, introverts and shy people need charisma. If you think charismatic people always get away with it, but you find it difficult to connect with strangers, this video is for you. I'll show you the 5 phases of charisma for introverts and shy people, so that you can develop your social skills and socialize more readily with anyone without appearing forced. Introverts and shy persons should be aware of the 5 phases of charm, a talent, because I grew up with certain complexes. I often received rejection on the first impression during my teens because I treated others in a surly and haughty manner. Although I have not completely overcome it, I have removed a significant portion of it after a great deal of effort. Understanding that social skills can be developed. The same is true with charisma. It is a skill that can be learned. It's critical to examine our own prejudices in this area. We've been sold the idea that being charismatic requires you to be born with a gift and be extroverted. Lie. Those who appear to have a natural talent grew up in an environment that encouraged them to acquire social skills from an early age, because they are pedantic, self-centered, talk improperly, or do other things that scare people. Some extroverts are unable to be liked. Defining charisma objectively allows you to see how you can improve it. Charisma is a type of magnetism that helps you to attract others, make them feel good in your presence, and have them listen intently to what you have to say. So it's absolutely up to you how you act. Consider a moment in which everything went well for you. You felt safe, and others paid attention to you. As a result of your appearance, it's conceivable that you've exuded charisma on occasion. It's easier to recognize the prospect of building charisma and obtaining outcomes once you comprehend that charisma is a product of your activities. You must follow a process, just as you do with any other skill. You'll need to get used to practicing 3 distinct habits to attract individuals and make them like your company, so that the other person feels valued. Pay close attention. Make her feel at ease by radiating warmth, so that he trusts you. Speak confidently. If you're shy or introverted, this information isn't going to help you right now, especially if you don't have anything to say. And it is that you cannot just be a package, like an empty gift package inside. To show yourself truthfully and draw people to you, you must have substance and effort to become an intriguing person, because to have a compelling personality, you must have your own beliefs and values, convictions derived from professional expertise, enriching experiences, and a self-image that you are proud of. Read a variety of books to broaden your cultural horizons and communication skills. Develop skills and hobbies, as these will boost your self-confidence in specific areas. Learn to speak in front of an audience so you can properly communicate your thoughts. I teach you how to do it in this video. Participate in sports. You will feel better and more secure. Participate in activities that will allow you to meet others who share your interests. As Henry Ford accurately put it, you are right if you think you can or can't. So, think of charisma as a project that unfolds in stages, and get to work on growing as a person first. The situation. Extroverts thrive when they are exposed to a lot of stimuli, while introverts thrive in quieter, more discreet environments, according to Susan Cain, author of The Power of Introverts. Putting yourself in the optimum stimulation zone for you is the key to optimizing your talents. Or, to put it another way, if you choose the right context, you will feel more at ease and achieve better achievements. And, just as you might have a high amount of self-confidence at certain times, you can have a high level of charisma at other times. It is simpler to grow in environments where we feel at ease. What exactly do I mean when I say context? Specifically, when, where, and who. Where? Flirting at clubs or bars was stressful for me as a young man, and I felt much more at ease in settings with less commotion. If you are timid or introverted, you will benefit from quiet areas with few people, small social events, or gatherings at friends' homes. When? Choose periods when you are feeling particularly energized. If you prefer to interact during the day, do so throughout the day. You will enjoy it more than if you do so at night, when you will be more off. Who or together with whom? It has a lot to do with the period of time and location. When you choose the time and place where you feel the most comfortable, you're more likely to stumble into individuals who share your interests, making it much easier to connect. Plan your social life, meetings, and everything else that leads to you interacting with other people in the context that feels right to you. Because it's not about attempting to become an extrovert, but rather about flourishing, strengthening what you're already excellent at in an environment where you feel good. Practicing and preparing. Your ability to connect with strangers is similar to a muscle. It gets stronger as you practice and warms up as you prepare. It is impossible to make steady growth without practice. It is more difficult to face events that push you out of your comfort zone without prior preparation than it is to arrive with greased machinery. Consider a 10-step ladder, which is easier, taking one step at a time or running up to it and jumping from the ground to the top. The solution is self-evident. Charisma is a 10-step ladder to success. You must take one step at a time to climb it. To do so, you must be somewhat fit, which necessitates preparation, which in practice means know exactly what you want, because it is easier to act with determination when you have defined goals. Test in low-risk conditions and gradually increase the challenge. For instance, if you wish to speak in front of a group of 100 people, begin by toasting at a family meal in front of 10 people. With each effort, you will feel the sense of accomplishment that comes with success, and this will give you the motivation to keep going. Take care of your body by getting enough rest, eating a healthy diet, and participating in sports to boost your vitality, self-confidence, and the image you project. Take care of your mind by surrounding yourself with positive people that encourage you to reach your goals. Warming up to provide your best before each match will be beneficial, much as athletes stretch and warm up before competing. In practice, this means that dress appropriately for the event in an attire that flatters you and makes you feel good. Before going to a social function, start with simple talks. For example, on your approach to the location, ask 10 strangers for directions. Before and after, charge your energy. If social settings deplete your vitality, spend time alone before going out to any event and after it is finished to recover, so that the charisma muscle is strong and ready. Practice and prepare. Objectivity. Because magnetism begins with what you present visually, it is entirely dependent on how you feel. Charisma is an intention-based mental game. Consider a period when you were overjoyed. What did you project? Positive energy, sparkling eyes, and a sense of being larger than normal are all present. But can you recall a tragic occasion? Sure. Your vitality was low, your gestures made you appear smaller than normal, and your eyes was wandering aimlessly. Always begin your contacts with 3 mental tricks: curiosity, friendship, and conviction to create an authentic, charismatic personality. Curiosity motivates you to display real interest in others, demonstrating that you are someone who listens and pays attention. This prompts you to make eye contact, move closer, and acknowledge the other person's presence. Friendship brings us together with persons with whom we share common interests. We feel good and are open when we're with pals. The interaction will flow and you will have a nice time if you treat the folks you just met as if they were your friends. You'll grin more and express goodwill, helping people feel at ease. Like faith, conviction is a powerful force. Being persuaded entails having a firm belief in something, which encourages others to believe as well. Your body language is expansive, and your posture is upright, indicating a strong sense of self-confidence. You may demonstrate a true captivating personality by mixing these 3 mental techniques. Concentrate. I don't know what to say is a common issue I've heard among students and clients. This causes us to feel insecure, and it often discourages us from approaching strangers. We believe that if we open our mouths, we will say something stupid and embarrass ourselves. People want to talk about themselves, which is one of the reasons why curiosity is beneficial. This is advantageous to you, because if you don't know what to say, the only way for both of you to be pleased is for the other person to talk about themselves. You also liberate yourself from making clever comments by focusing on the other person. The question and the recognition are 2 tools that will assist you. You show curiosity. You make her feel comfortable talking about herself, and she provides you with vital information to connect with by asking her questions. Remember that everyone has a passion for something. Look for something he is enthusiastic about, and you'll notice how his eyes light up when he speaks about it. Furthermore, finding issues that both of you are enthusiastic about will create a strong bond because shared passions are one of the few things that bring people together. You will uncover attributes and experiences that are deserving of a compliment as a result of this procedure. Tell her, as long as the compliment is genuine. This will make her feel even better in your presence. As a result, inquire, listen, and acknowledge. It's all you'll need to connect. Now is the time to start honing your charisma. Being shy or introverted and learning to be charismatic is a difficult task. It will demand you to do things that are difficult for you and present you with the dread of negative judgment associated with rejection, failure, or ridicule, especially at first. But when you push yourself and allow yourself to step beyond of your comfort zone, you'll see that you can accomplish it. So go out there and start learning new skills that will help you become a more complete person. To enhance your chances of success, carefully select the context. Warm up your engines before each match by practicing regularly and starting small. To encourage fulfilling encounters, begin with the proper purpose. Finally, keep your attention on the other person so that you can connect with them without being distracted by the talk. You'll be one step closer to being a charming person if you do this, and your shyness and introversion will fade away. You won't have to look up how introverts and shy people can gain charisma. Attract women with attraction psychology. Chapter 2. The capacity to sexually attract or elicit erotic interest in others is a skill. You don't need an angelic face or outstanding eyes to do it, though. Other aspects and factors are seen as equally important, if not more so. The first impression makes a big difference, even if we say all the time that what matters is on the inside. The eyes can't help but be drawn to a body. The first impression is crucial. Let us assume that after this initial impression is created, the person will reaffirm it, something that can work in our favor if the initial impression is positive, but can work against us if the first impression is negative. Before we even realize it, our brain processes appearance in real time. Thus, we have already made a fast assessment of the individual in front of us in less than 2 seconds. His appearance, his complexion, and his nose. Everything has been categorized and cataloged. He's already told us a lot without saying anything, or rather, we've deduced a lot from what he's said. When it comes to the face, it just takes 1/10 of a second for us to judge how attractive it is. There is love at first sight with which, at the very least, physical love. The woman looks first at intelligence, then, in compassion, if you have fun with him, and finally, in personality, in his being a mature, magnetic man, says psychologist and sexologist Antony Bollinger. He emphasizes that the intelligence that attracts is positive intelligence, which makes a woman feel good, rather than overwhelming intelligence. Men, according to Bollinger, female appearance initially draws them in, but this attraction fades over time. As a result, they require a relationship that is more or less comfortable for them. They're looking for a trip partner who can help them with their emotions. Key elements: hair and smell. Hair is one of our most prized characteristics. Women's preferences, in particular, oscillate between 2 extremes. On the one hand, it has been determined that shiny and dense hair is attractive to them. Baldness, on the other hand, is not as stigmatized as people may imagine. This is because elevated testosterone levels in the blood are linked to hair loss. Many studies suggest that this hormone is to blame for the attractiveness we perceive in others. So if you're becoming bald, it's because you're producing too much testosterone, which is also beautiful. Otherwise, you can rely on women's physical preferences and keep your hair neat. The second deciding aspect is the fragrance, and bad odor makes us want to do anything but mate with the other, unless we are fetishists about it. In any event, it is best not to take a chance and instead choose perfumes or deodorants with fresh and pleasant odors, especially if we want to make a good first impression, because scents are those that women remember. It isn't all about the appearance. Some people have something distinctive that makes them alluring, even if they are not gorgeous in most people's opinion. It's their I don't know what that attracts them, their tone of voice, their glance, their laugh, and their sense of humor. That interesting feature works as well. Women, on the other hand, are more desirable to men for a few days each month during their ovulation period. Men are attracted to a collection of sweet and pleasant fragrances that women emit at that time. Pheromones, for example, make them feel attracted and increase blood testosterone by almost 100% in minutes. It is critical to underline that males must inform women that they enjoy their scent in order for them to feel satisfied and intrigued. Other physical aspects that inspire sexual attraction. All humans, unconsciously, are drawn to symmetrical faces. This anthropometric feature is thought to be the most representative of beauty. The hue of the eyes isn't as important. The intensity of the limbal ring, the strip that surrounds the iris, is still present. The darker it is, the more appealing it is to us. The attraction is enhanced by a tall stature and well-developed muscles. If we look back to the beginnings of human evolution, we can see how Homo sapiens' strength was a critical factor in the family's survival, and this tradition has mostly survived until the present day. Bigger and taller males today provide a better sense of security and protection for women. This answer would be included in the evolutionary theory that explains the factors that make us more appealing. If you don't have these qualities, you can start working on them by exercising or participating in sports. Height isn't an issue because a short man can appear tall to even the smallest of women. Some women love men who are the same height as them or somewhat shorter. It isn't a requirement in the strictest sense. We aren't all that dissimilar from animals. We know that certain of the physical characteristics that interest us the most in other individuals are also favored by certain animal species. Lionesses, for example, examine males' fur in terms of quantity, density, and color. The more intense and black it is, the higher the testosterone levels are, and the more they like it. Female red partridges prefer males with more vibrant coloring. These colors are linked to a parasite-free immune system and a healthy diet. Horns, teeth, and crests, on the other hand, have passed along the female's protection and symbolize authority. The wrinkle is also lovely. The indicators of youth aren't worth much more than their polar opposites. At least, not as much as the mass advertising and marketing media would have us believe. Creams, tricks, treatments. The battle against the passage of time and the effects of aging. However, a study conducted by Madrid's Autonomous University refutes this propaganda effect. According to their findings, women are more attracted to facial traits that separate a male from a female face than to features that represent youth. That is, people place a higher importance on the presence of facial hair, defined lips, and bushy brows than the absence of a mark or scar. Even the brands make some more appealing to women, because the history that led to this result is a mystery. Love is not the same as attraction. Falling in love is closely tied to sexual attraction. However, it is influenced by other elements such as each person's receptivity, affinities, desires, values, or similar interests. as well as the circumstances and period in which they are. Everything matters. As a result, sexual attraction is both physical and chemical in nature. Chemicals, substances, and hormones undoubtedly play a role in its emergence. As we can see, even yet, there is a lot of ground to cover if you don't make a strong first impression. There's no denying that sexual preferences and interests differ from one to person. A variety of positive impressions that produce pleasure sensations in each of our senses, on the other hand, will help to trigger that sex appeal. The 5 fundamental laws of attraction are as follows. How do we pick our partner? Throughout our lives, we meet thousands of people. Even so, only a few of them catch our interest, and just a few of them become our partners. Why do we select certain applicants over others? What makes a person so appealing to us? These are the kinds of concerns that have plagued philosophers throughout history and psychology since its inception. And, despite the fact that it appears to be as old as humanity, fresh study on the subject is published every year. Studies on the subject are largely based on 2 primary theories. According to evolutionary theory, humans choose a mate based only on biological criteria. We choose a partner with whom we have a greater chance of surviving and reproducing. This is why men choose the most fertile women, younger, with better genes, and more attractive, and women to the men who provide the family's security the wealthiest and most committed. According to social theory, human partner selection is influenced by social rather than biological factors. The roles of men and women in society, according to this theory, guide the rules of attraction. As a result, we look for the kind of spouse our social milieu expects us to find. Women are attracted to males with more money and power, according to psychologist Alice Eagley, one of the theory's key advocates, because society has limited their potential to gain money and power, not because biology forces them to do so, as evolutionists believe. Despite the fact that there are ardent supporters of each theory among psychologists, the majority of them agree that biological and social factors influence our behavior. As a result, neither strategy is exclusive, but rather complementary. There are some principles of attraction that have been well investigated and acknowledged by most psychologists, as Dr. Nomas H. Panzer, professor at Otterbein University, says in Psychology Today. The familiarity principle, touch creates love, says the proverb. That's how the phrase goes, and psychologists agree. It is impossible to fall in love with someone and, much less, consider becoming their partner if we do not have frequent touch with them. The more time we spend with someone, the more likely we are to like them. There's also a cliche that where there's trust, there's contempt, and some couples do break down as they spend more time together. Nonetheless, Spencer claims that this is only the exception that demonstrates the norm. Physical attraction is a law that governs human behavior. We will not like a person no matter how long we spend with them if we do not find them beautiful. Physical influences, of course, play a significant role. The harsh reality is that no one wants to spend their days with someone who is physically repulsive to them. Physical attraction, on the other hand, is governed by market laws, as S.H. Panzer explains. Because the best item is the most expensive, customers who are unable to provide what they request must choose what they can afford. The wealthy drive Mercedes, the middle class drives Toyotas, and the impoverished take public transportation. The same thing occurs when it comes to physical appearance. The most attractive people are paired with similarly attractive people, the mediocre with mediocre people, and so on. The personality law is a set of rules that governs how people behave. According to research, a person's competence, or level of intelligence and social skills, and their warmth, or propensity to be close and compassionate, are 2 personality attributes that make them exceptionally attractive. You will flirt more easily if you are knowledgeable and affectionate. Asterisk the proximity rule. Anyone who has been in a long-distance relationship understands that the wooing will either succeed or fail tragically if the parties do not meet soon. The typical situation is that we choose a couple of people who are close to us and whom we can meet almost every day, because it is the most convenient for both sides. The law of similarity is a rule that governs how similar things are. The research proves that we are drawn to people who are similar to ourselves. Our spouse does not have to share our interests, views, or concerns, but they must share some of them. If we have a choice between multiple persons, as we all do, we favor someone who shares interests with us. These 5 laws affect both men and women in the same way. They are ruthless in their selection of potential candidates. But how can we reach a final decision? Why do some relationships survive months, years, or even a lifetime? These laws assist to choose the candidates, S.H. Panzer says, but they do not operate in the final selection. According to him, biology and the surroundings encourage us to go to the correct store, but they can't tell us what to buy. That is something we choose for ourselves. A subjective, dark, and arbitrary internal process intervenes in the ultimate selection, which does not always obey the rules of reason, evolution, cultural pressure, or even our goals and intentions. To consider enticing ladies as an alpha, you must be realistic with your limitations. Thus, you must be aware of these regulations. That way, you can direct your own search. One of the factors that can lead to the formation of a loving relationship is attraction. Some scholars believe that attachment is the fundamental phenomena that underpins the attraction and love processes. Affiliation is a natural human propensity that leads to a desire to be in the company of others, with the primary goal of ensuring the individual's and species' survival. In this way, it is thought that one of the affiliation's goals is to form relationships, express love, and sexuality. Attraction. Interpersonal attraction can be defined as a person's evaluation of another along an attitudinal axis with two extremes: positive evaluation, love, and negative evaluation, hatred, hate. This judgment is related with behaviors, e.g., attempting to do things with the person who attracts us, feelings, e.g., feeling sad when we are unable to be with that person, and other cognitions, e.g., attributing to that person many favorable attributes. Association and reinforcement's consequences. Following classical conditioning principles, the consequences of the association on interpersonal attraction consist of being drawn to persons who appear to be connected with positive experiences. Those associated with negative events will irritate us. In this sense, the mum effect refers to people's aversion to sharing bad news with others, even if we have no connection to them. When we send them out, we will appear to be related with the negative incident in the receiver's mind. As a result, we will be unattractive to them. Interdependence and exchange. According to the theory of social exchange, we will be attracted to someone if we believe the benefits of a relationship will outweigh the costs. The attractiveness of a person in a relationship is determined by comparisons made using two criteria: the comparison level based on previous experiences. Any current circumstance will only be viewed as favorable based on the amount of comparison with alternatives, and b, this comparison, which can form prior love relationships. If it is the only option we have, a fairly nice relationship can be the best evaluated. A number of factors, in addition to these psychological theories, play a critical role in the emergence and persistence of the attraction we develop for certain persons. Then we'll go over the most important ones. Proximity. Proximity influences dating and marriages in addition to getting people to know each other. According to Festinger, Schachter, and Back's research, the three people with whom college students living in a dorm had the best relationships were those who lived closest to one another. Authors like Bayen and Bueller have also confirmed that the distance between the seats affects students' relationships throughout the semester. That is, the students' ability to get to know one another is influenced by their proximity. The correlations between physical distance and attraction, on the other hand, do not prove that proximity is the cause of relationships. It's possible that people with similar characteristics, e.g., religion, socioeconomic status, etc., prefer to live close to one another. The impact of physical proximity on relationship formation can be explained in a variety of ways. The people who are physically closest to you are also the most accessible. With repeated exposure, feelings of apprehension about the unknown fade, and that new person becomes more familiar. Proximity can boost familiarity, which boosts attraction. The effect of repeated perception of an initially neutral or positive stimulus leads to a greater attraction to the stimulus. Similarity can also increase this familiarity because people who share certain spaces tend to have similar ideologies, aspirations, problems, and so on. Finally, according to cognitive consistency theories, when we have to spend a lot of time with someone and the relationship is unpleasant for us, we tend to restore balance by either trying to get away from it or discovering that the person was not as bad as we thought, as long as the person is initially positive or neutral, not negative. Proximity has a positive effect on attraction. Effects that are negative and positive. Positive feelings consistently lead to positive evaluations of others, liking, and sympathy, according to experiments. Negative feelings, on the other hand, are associated with negative assessments, dislike, and antipathy. Affection can influence attraction in two ways. First, someone else can make you feel good or bad. People who make you feel good will like you, while people who make you feel bad will dislike you. Second, imagine that a person is only present when your positive and negative emotions are triggered as a result for whatever reason. This person will either be pleasant or unpleasant to you in that case. The basic concept is classical conditioning. The observer develops negative or positive attitudes towards an attitudinal object when it is associated with a stimulus that causes negative or positive feelings. Positive effect causes people to like others, while negative effect causes people to dislike them. According to numerous studies, negative reactions, like positive ones, can be passed down from one person to the next. If negative emotions make other people dislike us, and affection is easily associated with anyone, we will transfer our negative feelings from one person to another if we see them together. Negatively perceived characteristics, e.g., race, age, foreign accent, physical disability, etc., are associated with stigmata just as easily as positive ones, according to research. Even if a stigma is removed, the effect of the previous stigma does not always go away. Characteristics of people: sincerity, honesty, understanding, loyalty, and trustworthiness were the 5 most valued traits according to Anderson. Similarly, understanding, loyalty, ability to capture others' feelings, sincerity, and joy were the most highly rated personality traits in Moya's research. Other research has found that people's most valued traits are divided into 2 categories: affection, e.g., affectionate, friendly, happy, and considerate, nonverbal cues, e.g., smiling, looking attentively, expressing emotions, and attitude dispositions, e.g., showing a liking for people, and be competence, e.g., having an interesting conversation, etc. Another set of characteristics related to the person we interact with's power, prestige, or social position plays a significant role in determining attractiveness, particularly for males. Women advertise their physical attractiveness and their desire for financial security in the press. Men, on the other hand, make financial offers and ask for specific physical traits. Similarity. Psychosocial research shows that as people's similarity grows, so does their attraction to each other. Attitudinal and personality similarity are the 2 dimensions of similarity that have received the most research from social psychologists. The term attitude similarity describes how 2 people have similar viewpoints on a variety of issues. According to Bayan, the more similar you are, the more appealing you are. This finding has been observed in people of all ages, from various groups, and from various countries. The proportion hypothesis predicted that attraction differed depending on the proportion of similar attitudes shared, and Smeaton, Bayan, and Mernan's study confirmed this hypothesis. Despite these findings, a series of studies found that different attitudes have a slightly greater impact than similar attitudes, in part because most people assume that a stranger, particularly one who is attractive, has similar attitudes to them. The false consensus effect refers to the assumption of widespread agreement with one's own opinions, and it has the effect of making agreement expected while disagreement is unexpected. Assume you're dealing with a unique situation. A person believes that his or her viewpoint is in the minority, and that the majority of people are opposed to it. If the disagreement is expected, it will have less of an impact than if it is unexpected. The research findings are less consistent when it comes to personality similarity. The lack of a link between personality similarity and attraction, according to Moya, can be explained by the fact that personality characteristics are rarely displayed in public. Other times, the nature of the personality trait attracts both similar and dissimilar people. Similarity has been shown to be more attractive than difference in the following characteristics: sexual orientation, whether the person is male, female, or androgynous, depression, type of behavior, seeking sensation, and cognitive style. The following examples demonstrate how similarity can have both positive and negative effects on attraction. People naturally organize their likes and dislikes in a balanced way, according to cognitive consistency and balance theories. When we like someone who is similar to us, we form balanced relationships because the similarity reinforces each other. The fact that they have them Festinger, 1954, is the best proof that others approve of our ideas, customs, and tastes. This statement implies that we are only interested in other people's opinions to confirm what we already believe. When people look alike because they share a negative trait, the similarity may lead to rejection rather than attraction, because it allows us to learn new things. The difference can be more reinforcing than the similarity. Valuable. It is also highly valued to feel unique and special. Comparing and evaluating the various options we have and their costs and benefits can lead to the selection of people who are similar to us in certain dimensions, e.g., educational level, social class, or physical attractiveness. This is because the most important people are usually the most difficult to obtain. According to expectation value theories, we will be drawn to the most valuable people in a group of people who may reciprocate us in real life. The pairing hypothesis states that married couples and in-love couples are more likely to become partners if their physical attractiveness is similar. Finally, when asked directly, university students do not believe that social, ideological, or religious similarity is a relevant factor in choosing a partner. This result could be explained by 2 factors. A, people are unaware of the importance of situational determinants of behavior, and B, this attribute may be important in the early stages of a relationship, but not in the selection of an intimate partner. Couples meeting spaces, however, would be closed or reserved for people with a high socioeconomic status. According to French data, they would be public open places to the entire world for people with low socioeconomic status. This implies that, while certain similarities are irrelevant when choosing a partner, couples are more likely to share certain similarities: social, ideological, religious, to the extent that couples meeting spaces differ depending on their socioeconomic status. Reciprocity. Once 2 people have found enough common ground to form a friendship, they must take another step. The presence or absence of reciprocity is one of the aspects that influences the establishment of effective relationships. These people find us appealing as well. Receiving favorable feedback makes almost everyone happy, and receiving bad criticism is generally uncomfortable. Individuals with negative self-concepts, on the other hand, may respond effectively to true negative judgments, probably because their self-schema is constant. Although mutual liking is frequently communicated in words, nonverbal markers of attraction can be the earliest symptoms of attraction. Even though he knew their attitudes were different, Gold, Rickman, and Mosley discovered that when a woman responded positively to a male by glancing at him, talking to him, and approaching him, he tended to be drawn to her. Someone who has a negative perception of us is unrewarding. Furthermore, in an unstable scenario, a person likes and dislikes me, according to cognitive consistency theories. Aronson and co-discovered that when two people despise the same thing, their attraction to each other is stronger than when they don't. Attraction to the body, according to Hatfield and Sprecher. Given the same traits, a person with a pleasant physical appearance is more attractive than someone with a less attractive physical appearance. When it comes to initial impressions or superficial touch, physical appeal is very important. The individual we initially conclude has no interest, is not paid attention to, and is forgotten, according to the cognitive ignorance process. According to studies, males frequently overlook unattractive women. Men and women of many races have agreed that an attractive female face has both a childish aspect, big, wide-set eyes, small nose, wide smile, and small chin, and mature features, prominent cheekbones, thin cheeks, high eyebrows, and large pupils. In numerous studies, men's physical attractiveness has been rated positively, but women's physical attractiveness has been rated negatively. Body build, or the waist-to-hip ratio in women's cases, is another physical trait that appears to influence physical beauty. When an unattractive physique paired an extremely gorgeous face, Alice discovered that attractiveness reduced significantly. Overweight persons are also thought to be less attractive. The reasons for our attraction to a pleasing physique are as follows. There are numerous views regarding which people's attributes are related with each other in our culture, according to implicit theories of personality. In this sense, the halo effect assumes that someone who possesses one good characteristic would also possess other desirable qualities. People perceive that attractive men and women are more stable, intriguing, sociable, independent, dominant, exciting, sensual, balanced, socially proficient, and successful than those who are not attractive. According to some research, physical attractiveness, on the other hand, can be linked to undesirable traits. Very gorgeous women, for example, may be perceived as more materialistic and vain than less attractive ones. When they are tried for a crime including deception, they may be judged more guilty than the latter. Attractive people also draw us, since interacting with someone with these attributes improves our public image. As a result, several studies have proved that when a man appears with an extremely gorgeous woman, his overall impression improves. Attractive people can act in ways that improve their rating and make them more appealing. Rise discovered that handsome men had more female connections and gained more social skills than less attractive guys. The most attractive women, on the other hand, did not engage in more interactions with males, and were less forceful and afraid in their male relationships than the less attractive women. Good-looking people, according to the effect-centered model, activate the positive impact. An effect, as previously established, is an essential predictor of attraction. People don't always get it right when judging how appealing they are to others. Men, but not women, exaggerate their attractiveness. It's hardly surprising that many people are concerned about their appearance because many biases favor attractiveness. Appearance anxiety is characterized by a preoccupation with one's looks and a dread of negative feedback from others. It's not just about a person's physical appearance when deciding whether or not they're attractive. The influence of situational circumstances on the observer is also significant. When a person has previously seen multiple exceptionally attractive persons, Kenrick discovered that the person in issue is less attractive. Perceptions are also influenced by behavioral factors. People, regardless of gender or age, respond more positively to someone who walks with a youthful gait than someone who walks with an elderly-like gait. Adults who appear to be very young are frequently seen as weak, ignorant, and inept, but also as kind and honest. People who look to be very mature are thought to be more dominant and attractive, but less affectionate and pleasant. Attractiveness, social behavior, and perception. Contrary to popular opinion that beauty is determined by one's appearance and that there are vastly varied beauty patterns. 15 research have found that people of various nations and ethnic groups agree on what types of people are physically appealing and what types are not. People from 13 different cultures, 4 ethnic groups rated a female face as more attractive if it had the following features: large eyes with dilated pupils, tiny nose, high cheekbones, narrow face with thin cheeks, wide smile, thick or full lips, and a small chin. Other findings, however, reveal cultural differences. Blacks in the United States rate overweight women as more beautiful than whites. This implies that, while there is agreement on body form and attractive facial features, ethnic differences in the body weight and size factors that characterize attractiveness exist. People view and judge attractive people more favorably. According to studies, this is known as the "what is beautiful is good" effect. Langlois Review found that the most attractive children were rated as being friendlier, more competent, having a better fit and emotional balance, and having stronger interpersonal competency than the least attractive children. Attractive adults were assessed to be more competent at work, friendlier, and in better physical and mental health. Attractive children and adults were consistently treated more warmly. With the most attractive children, there were less negative interactions, more positive interactions, and greater care for them. Adults who were attractive received more attention and were rewarded more. With them, there were more pleasant encounters, fewer negative contacts, and more aid and cooperation. It's also been proven that attractive people behave more positively, e.g., they're more popular, slightly smarter, have better social skills and behaviors, and have better physical health and have more positive qualities, e.g., greater self-esteem, better mental health, more extroversion. Finally, attractive people have a somewhat higher self-perception or judgment of themselves than less attractive people. They believe they are more competent and have better mental health. Attractiveness elements. The preceding findings support the following reason for attractiveness. Expectations and stereotypes are learned. There is no such thing as a good, lame, or one-eyed person, and confirmed through behaviors and self-fulfilling prophecy, e.g., when confronted with someone unattractive, I treat them worse, to which they respond more negatively. B. Expectations and stereotypes are confirmed through behaviors and self-fulfilling prophecy, e.g., when confronted with someone unattractive, I treat them. Although all of the civilizations analyzed had a predisposition to believe that what is beautiful is good, the inferred positive attributes varied. In Korea, for example, a handsome person is assumed to care more about others and to be more integrated, in line with the culture's collectivist principles, while in the United States, it is assumed that the more handsome one is, the more assertiveness, domination, and strength one has, which is congruent with the prevalent individualistic and competitive cultural norms in those nations. Another study of Asians, Taiwanese, found that attractive persons were rated highly on both socially acceptable and unfavorable characteristics. Despite this, there was no link between attractiveness and judgments of non-normative qualities of moderate desirability. That is, physical attractiveness is linked to culturally acceptable characteristics. 3 new facts cast doubt on the societal interpretation of what is beautiful is good. In adults, the association between a person's attractiveness and the judgments and behaviors attributed to him is not as strong as it is in youngsters. People learn aesthetic patterns and their correlations as they socialize in a certain society, according to social cultural reasons. Therefore, adults should exhibit this effect more strongly. Similarly, men and women have similar relationships between appearance and the judgments and behaviors attributed to them. This result calls into question the sociocultural notion that this impact is based on differing gender roles that place a greater emphasis on female physical beauty than male physical attractiveness. Finally, attractive people have slightly more positive self-perceptions. This fact casts doubt on the sociocultural view that perceptions and interactions are absorbed in the self-concept, attractiveness, as well as evolutionary reasons. The great level of agreement across cultures in terms of appealing traits: infantile face, amphora body for women, regular face, and muscular triangular body for males supports an evolutionary explanation. However, a number of facts call the evolutionary explanations into question, because attractive traits influence men and women equally when it comes to inferring judgments and behaviors about people. The evolutionary hypothesis that attractiveness is more important for men because it indicates women's greater reproductive capacity, while resources are more important for women because it indicates men's ability to ensure the survival of their offspring, is called into question. Asterisk, the evolutionary hypothesis affirms that attractiveness must be significant since it is associated to reproduction, is also questioned. That is, with adulthood, because the relationship between a person's attractiveness and the judgment and behavior attributed to it is similar for children and adults. The findings support the evolutionary idea that attractiveness is a general predictor of good health, known as the good gene theory. The evolutionary theory of parental investment, which suggests that parents invest more in children with greater survivability and reproduction, healthier because they are more beautiful, regardless of whether they are boys or girls, is also consistent with the fact that it associates a person's attractiveness with their better evaluation and quality of interaction in childhood. Love. Because love is such a complex phenomena, it has spawned a plethora of broad and ambiguous definitions that can be applied to other profound emotional situations such as mourning or rape. Furthermore, because love is a dynamic process that changes over time in a relationship, its definition will change as the relationship progresses. The data from various investigations from various disciplines clearly show that there is a progressive decrease in initial passion, which, combined with the gradual growth of commitment, results in a cycle with an initial phase of passionate love strongly associated with sexual desire, followed by a cycle with an initial phase of passionate love strongly associated with sexual desire. In most circumstances, a phase of partner love lasts for roughly 2 years. Love's different types. One of the most basic types of love is sexual or passionate love, which is defined by strong and controllable feelings of attraction towards the desired person and anxiety and discomfort when they are not present, strong physiological activation and sexual desire, obsessive thoughts or rumination about the loved object, and a specific pattern of behaviors, such as expressing affection for the desired person. Non-passionate romantic love, on the other hand, would include thoughts of need, caring for, and trust in the relationship, feelings of well-being, difficulties concentrating, and floating in the clouds, intense physical reactions, and behaviors of intimacy, support, and tolerance of the other. To a lesser extent, Lee will be the first of all the love typologies to try to scientifically test his theory. Eros, ludus, and storge are the three primary love styles identified by Lee. The combination of these core styles, to varying degrees, would result in three secondary styles that are independent of the first. Mania, pragma, and agape are three different types of mania. Eros, often known as passionate love, is defined by an irrepressible desire, great physical attraction, and sexual activity. The Eros lover is passionate about love, but he isn't obsessed with it or pushes his partner to be more intense, preferring to let things evolve naturally. This personality type is characterized by self-assurance and high self-esteem. Ludus, or lighthearted love, is characterized by a lack of emotional connection and no expectations for the future. This type of love has no preference for physical appearance and is open to all types of partners. Despite the fact that many people regard this love as immoral, Ludus does not seek to harm others. Before beginning a relationship, he normally spells out the rules of the game. Storge, or friendly love, is defined by a long-term commitment based on familiarity, friendship, and affection that develops gently and prudently. Storge emphasizes similarities in terms of beliefs and attitudes far more than physical attractiveness or sexual fulfillment. This love is more oriented toward a long-term commitment than a short-term desire. Asterisk mania is a form of obsessive love characterized by a high reliance on one's lover, severe jealousy, possessiveness, mistrust, and ambivalence. This lover attempts to force the pair into marriage rather than allowing it to develop naturally. Asterisk pragma is a term that refers to pragmatic love, or love that is founded on a reasoned quest for the perfect spouse. Age, education, social standing, religion, or the ability to be a decent father or mother are all factors considered by the pragmatic lover. Unlike storge, where love might flourish without regard for the partner's future plans or family background, the pragmatic lover is more inclined to set criteria before starting a relationship. Agape, or altruistic love, is a state of utter selflessness and renunciation. It's a romantic relationship in which sexuality and sensuality aren't important. The Hendrick and Hendrick scale of love attitudes is the one that assesses this typology from the perspective of an individual's approach to love relationships. Hendrick and Hendrick use this scale to categorize the romantic stories told by university students into 6 distinct styles. Eros 34%, storge 66%, ludus 2%, madness 2%, pragma 17%, and agape 17% are the most common emotions, 2%. Moreover, 3/4 of the stories were about romantic love, with a third of them being about passionate love. In terms of gender differences, Hendrick and Hendrick discovered that males value passionate love, eros and amusing or entertaining activities more than women. Ludus, women are more prone to friendly love, storge, logical love, pragma, and possessive love. Pragma than men mania. These findings have been interpreted in light of the roles that these forms of love have had in the evolution of the species for each sex. Love's functions in evolution. We can argue about the biological utility of loving behavior for the individual as a member of a species using evolutionary reasons. This viewpoint considers love to be a natural aspect of the human state, as well as a natural feature of other species. Love is biologically meaningful if it aids in the survival of species, which is a major theme in evolutionary theory. The survival of species depended on reproductive success 5 million years ago. Higher primates whose physiology caused them to seek pleasure from sexual activity, female-male bonding, and parents' descendants were reinforced in their sexual desire and commitment, which were tied to prior characteristics of reproductive success. Ancestors who were driven to engage in sexual activity or form stable emotional ties were more likely to pass on their genes than those who were not. Humans are genetically pre-programmed to engage in sexual activity, fall in love, have solid emotional attachments with a partner, and care for descendants as a result of this evolutionary process. Parental love. Sexual activity is determined by current environmental conditions, social influences, and non-genetic features of the organism, according to the evolutionary perspective. Despite the fact that historical impact, or the 10,000 years of civilization in which we now live, has only acted for 5% of the species' existence, or over 400 of humanity's 100,000 generations, we can explain sex variations in sexual behavior and love through two main processes that have to do with differential parental investment and sexual selection. According to this socio-biological theory, the sexual selection process is divided into two parts. Intrasexual selection refers to the competitive pressure that members of one sex put on members of the other. The strongest and best hunting individuals are more likely to dominate the competition and live in a species where men fight for females based on their hunting prowess and strength. And B. Epigamic selection is the other part of sexual selection. If one sex chooses its partners from the other sex based on physical strength and aggressiveness, these characteristics must be more common in one sex than the other. Is defined as parental investment is defined as a parent's commitment of time, energy, and risk in their offspring in order to maximize the likelihood of the latter's survival and hence reproductive success at the expense of the father's potential to invest in another offspring. While normal parental investment has been widely diverse throughout our evolutionary history, the minimum possible parental investment of females has been substantially greater than that of males in our species due to 9 months of gestation and subsequent months of nursing. In basic hunter-gatherer societies, a woman can have a maximum of 25 children, while the average number of offspring is 5. If the danger of copulation was low, ancestral men may have profited reproductively by copulating with any fertile female. As a result, it's logical to assume that natural selection rewarded males with low sexual arousal thresholds and who were quick to respond to new sexually appealing females. Our female predecessors, on the other hand, had little to gain reproductively and a lot to lose if they copulated with new men at random. Females who were sexually attracted to a wide variety of males or who were present only because of their presence are unlikely to have benefited from selection. In the case of the human species, sociobiological theory predicts that because women must be reproductive, they will be better sexual objects if they have a youthful and maternal appearance. For example, the narrower the waist is in comparison to the hip, the more attractive, healthier, and reproductively desirable they are to men. Women are also expected to be more picky in choosing their partners because they have a bigger parental commitment in their children than men and can only father a few boys in a short period of time. As a result, women will seek out attached men with sufficient money to safeguard themselves and their children. They will give more attention to the traits of prestige, dominance, and aggressiveness while picking potential sexual partners. They'll pick the people that have the most ability to gather resources. Role theories that highlight that women are allocated and socialized in passive, lower status, and community roles while males are not are popular with predictions from sociobiological theory addressing gender differences in behavior. Because they are agentic and in active roles of higher status, women should be less approving of casual partnerships. They should work with fewer distinct people. Sociobiologists claim that, while males are more permissive of extramarital affairs than women, men disapprove of women having such relationships because they must ensure paternity with absolute certainty. According to this perspective, men will cherish playful love more than women, owing to their smaller parental investment and favorable attitude toward casual sex and gaining the greatest number of prospective mates. Given the increased parental investment and effort required to raise a few descendants, women will place a higher importance on pragmatic and friendly love, as well as social power and status characteristics when choosing a mate. As a result, the species' reproduction would be aided by men's playful love and women's pragmatic love. Cross-cultural research has consistently verified sociobiological notions that women prefer older sexual partners and evaluate them based on their resources. According to these predictions, men, on the other hand, choose mates who are younger and more physically beautiful. In this regard, cross-cultural research found that women judge their male partners based on their economic potential, ambition, and perseverance in 37 different nations. Men, on the other hand, value health, beauty, and youth when choosing a female mate, and they will prefer those who show the most evidence of reproductive capacity. Men had more permissive attitudes towards sexual interactions, earlier commencement of coital sexual encounters, a higher frequency of intercourse, and a bigger number of sexual partners than women, according to Oliver and Hyde's meta-analysis. Anthropological research backs up this larger masculine centrality in sexuality. 788 of the 849 civilizations surveyed in Murdoch's ethnographic atlas are polygamous, one husband for multiple wives. Only 4 of them are polyandrous, a woman can have 2 or more husbands. In addition to the 4 polyandrous, they are all polygamous, despite the fact that the opposite is not true. Gender inequalities will be reinforced as a result of the socio-biological augmentation, especially in cultures with fewer social restraints. These allow for the exploration of the whole behavioral repertoire as well as the stronger manifestation of intrinsic distinctions. Love's universal characteristics and cultural impact. Some authors have proposed the transcultural presence of romantic or passionate love from a cultural standpoint. In a study of 186 civilizations, Jankowak and Fisher discovered that 88.5% of them exhibit indications of intense love. Other authors, such as Averill, who are social constructionists and relativists, believe that passionate love is a reality created by social discourse at a certain historical and cultural period. According to Hendrick and Hendrick, among others, it is unique to Western culture and dates back to the 12th century. However, some authors, such as Burchard, point out that depictions of desire and intense love can be found in far older publications such as the Bible, Hindu literature, and classical Chinese classics. Love is increasingly being viewed as a universal phenomena by psychologists, anthropologists, and other academics. However, its precise meaning varies significantly from one culture to the next and across time. It was not a requirement for marriage prior to the modern era. As a result, in many communities, it was organized by parents or relatives in the hopes that the pair would fall in love in the future. Even yet, there were no high hopes for romantic love. The relationship between marriage and love has altered during the last 30 years. According to studies conducted in Western societies, women, in particular, wanted to marry even if they were not in love romantically. Even yet, men and women have agreed on the idea of romantic love as the foundation of marriage since then. Romantic love appears to have become a crucial basis for establishing long-term married relationships in Western nations over the 20th century. When a society adopts the concept that one should marry exclusively for love, it becomes an ideology. Because so many people today believe this, it's impossible to imagine how pleasant marriages could have been in prior centuries. Perhaps people in past eras had a different ideology. Perhaps there was an early desire to share life with a spouse, to have sexual fulfillment, or to grow to love the other more profoundly over time. Except for falling in love, several of these anticipations sound a lot like today's anticipations. It's likely that the love-marriage tie hasn't changed all that much. The philosophy of love may have shifted from marriages must be arranged to marriages must be founded on love. This, to some part, is contingent on how love is defined. Hendrick and Hendrick, 1986. Intimate relationships and socio-structural factors. Some academics have argued that social structural variables have an impact on beliefs and loving behaviors. The demographic ratio between men and women, according to Guttentag and Secord, is a significant component in explaining the prevalent type of love. When there are more men in the population than women, the few women who exist are prized. A non-passionate romantic picture of love, as well as an idealized vision of women and the family, prevail. In this situation, a more partner-oriented kind of love would most likely prevail. The family and marriage will be devalued if there are too many women. Extramarital sex, singleness, and separations would be common. Committed love would be less prevalent, and a playful and sexual love style would reign supreme. These researchers looked at population data from many countries and historical periods, including ancient Greece, medieval Europe, and the United States, to see if these hypotheses were validated over time. Eagley and Wood, on the other hand, argued that in societies with greater gender equality, sex differences in the criteria for choosing an intimate partner should be smoothed out, because men's preferences for younger women capable of being good attractive housewives, as well as women's importance placed on men's social resources, reflect the differences in status and roles between men and women. When the partner selection criteria were analyzed again, it was discovered that the greater the gender equality, as measured by an indicator of women's labor and institutional insertion, as well as salary parity with men, the fewer differences between the sexes and the importance given to financial resources and being a good householder as criteria for choosing a partner. Differences in attitudes about love between nations and genders, according to this socio-structural perspective, are influenced by societal resources, demographics, and the allocation of power and status among gender roles. The relevance of passionate love as a criterion and prerequisite for choosing an intimate partner and marrying will be directly reinforced by economic progress. It enables a person to place a higher priority on subjective rather than practical factors. Men's and women's responses to love will become increasingly comparable when social and economic progress occurs, which is related with a lesser disparity in status and power over gender roles. Economic development, according to Levine, would reinforce individualism, relative equality of opportunity between men and women, higher education, greater female labor participation, and legal equality, and would increase the importance of subjective feelings and personal decisions in the formation of couples, which would be associated with an increase in divorces and a decrease in birth rates, greater control of contraception by the woman and greater planning as a result. Inequalities between men and women, as well as between nations, could be explained by differences in resource allocation and responsibilities. Intimate relationships and cultural factors. Cultural values have been proven to have an impact on love beliefs in other studies. According to Dion and Dion, different cultural orientations have a significant impact on how people think about love and intimacy. The intense romantic component of love is valued higher in more individualistic societies, where intimate connections are formed face-to-face and more or less symmetrically. In collectivist societies, on the other hand, intimate relationships are organized through the intervention of the extended family. More emphasis is placed on the practical and friendly sides of love. In individualistic cultures, romantic love is thus a more important foundation for marriage than in collectivist cultures. In the first, two people's love and individual decisions appear to be natural for them to build a solid couple. In the latter, the creation of the couple is, in general, a decision made by the elderly. It is based on agreements that are tailored to the wishes of the families, and it is a personal responsibility. The majority of humanity lives in collectivist cultures, and marriages are largely influenced by the family. The majority of the brides are teenagers. A dowry is paid for them in 2/3 of the societies. Marriage is viewed as a social and economic agreement between two families. Only a third of Chinese marriages were free of family influence in 1980. In 1989, 40% of Korean marriages were arranged, as were 72% of Turkish women polled in the 1970s. Among Indian and Pakistani immigrants, parental arranged marriage was fairly common. Evaluative norms, rather than inequalities in resources and duties, would explain the variations between genders and nations from this sociocultural and normative perspective, even if economic development is controlled. Cultures whose beliefs emphasize autonomy and individual decisions, as well as internal traits and feelings, individualistic, would emphasize the importance of passionate love. Love is a criterion and prerequisite for choosing a mate. And then there's marriage, collectivist cultures, which value practical and friendly features of relationships over love as a criterion, and necessary for creating a stable marriage, will value practical and friendly aspects of relationships more than love as a criterion, and prerequisite for developing a stable couple. Love. It's also reasonable to predict that normative cultures, which emphasize the importance of following rules, will reject fun and pragmatic love in favor of chastity and social prestige. The style of love mania, high emotional and possessive activation, should be emphasized in these societies that do not accept uncertainties or feelings. Hierarchical cultures, which emphasize the legitimacy of status asymmetry and obedience from children to fathers and wives to husbands, among others. And masculine, competitive cultures, which emphasize gender differences, will reinforce differences in response between men and women, in particular by reinforcing people's support for traditional gender criteria. For example, women will value more social status and men will value chastity and feminine characteristics. Remember that. According to a sociocultural argument, cultures with more limits diminish gender differences in normative responses. For example, if pragmatic love is normative in collectivist cultures, there will be fewer differences between men and women in the valuing of pragmatic love. In conclusion, love is a cultural and historical phenomena with inter- and intra-individual variety. As a result, based on these, the types of love and the consideration of love as a prerequisite for getting married are described in two different methods of conceptualizing love. The types of love and the consideration of love as a prerequisite for getting married. Social cultural factors in love types. A research on the relevance of Hendrick and Hendrick distinct love styles to people from 15 countries and regions throughout the world has verified the impact of economic, social, and cultural factors on the valuation of these types of love. Using national averages, it is proven that the erotic style is the most valued, followed by the storage mania style, with lower scores indicating better types of love and higher numbers indicating rejection. The least regarded styles are ludus and pragma, see table below. Furthermore, cultures that emphasize the friendly and partner style, storage, favor practicalities, pragma, over possession, envy, and high emotional arousal levels, mania. Cultures that respect passionate love also value manic lovelessness in this way. Erotic love is highly valued in feminine cultures and in non-competitive nations that favor quality of life over quantity. Countries with a high level of social development and cultures that reject uncertainty have lower levels of normative anxiety. In collectivist cultures, where intimate relationships are built more on family obligations and duties, and cultures with a low aversion to love, the storage and pragma love styles, which do not have such emotional undertones, are highly prized. The uncertainty, that is, intolerant societies that favor gradual and quiet love and are less emotional. The social and practical components of love are valued higher in countries with lower socioeconomic development and greater hierarchical distance. As a result, these findings confirm what has been observed in other studies, namely, that African countries have a larger frequency of pragmatic and partner love styles than collectivist Eastern and less developed countries. The manic style associated with possession and high affective activation is more severe in individualistic societies that value the person more and have a high avoidance of uncertainty that is more normative and emotive. Finally, in collectivist cultures with limited socioeconomic development and low uncertainty avoidance, the playful love style is more prized. Extramarital sexuality is more common in many cultures, particularly in African countries, due to a lack of resourceful male partners as well as a greater tolerance and acceptance of casual sex. All of this information enables you to assess which preferences are prevalent in your area, and to begin your search based on these references. Gender differences and love types. In terms of gender differences, the findings suggest that women agree with pragmatic love and storage love substantially more than men. At the same time, they place a lower value on ludus affection and love. There are larger variations between women and men in their valuations of playful love styles in feminine versus masculine societies. As a result, males place a higher importance on playful love. Men from feminine cultures, in particular, place a higher importance on play love than women. It has also been discovered that in collectivist countries with lower levels of social development, There is a wider disparity in how women and men value storge love. Although women agree with the form of friendly love in all countries more than men, women from collectivist and less developed nations stress this sort of love more than men, presumably to compensate for a lack of resources and autonomy. The findings also demonstrate that in individualistic countries, men and women have a wider disparity in their pragma-style valuation. In individualistic cultures, women agree with the practical component of love more than men. In collectivist countries, however, both men and women place a higher importance on it. Similarly, in male cultures, the inequalities between men and women in their appraisal of the pragma style were bigger than in feminine cultures. In individualistic and competitive cultures, women stress pragmatic love more than men, most likely as a strategy of adapting to their surroundings. In individualistic cultures, emphasizing feelings and personal decisions when establishing intimate relationships, and in cultures characterized by more egalitarian or less social relationships, hierarchical and greater social development, love and physical attractiveness are more valued as criteria for choosing a partner. In contrast, in civilizations with fewer resources, less social development, and a highly hierarchical structure, the value of innocence, social status, and good health is more essential. The sociocultural background appears to support a higher value placed on the more material and practical parts of love. In these situations, the components of intimate relationship survival and societal adaptation are increasingly important. Social cultural factors in marriage. People from collectivist societies are 50% more likely to say they would marry someone even if they were not in love. According to studies, the majority of people refuse to marry someone who meets all of the conditions, but is not in love with them, and only a small percentage accepts it. Individuals from individualistic and macho countries, in particular, claim to be less in favor of marrying someone who possesses all of the attributes. They are still not in love with one another. Furthermore, countries with higher levels of social development and lower levels of hierarchy place a higher value on love as a prerequisite for forming personal and marital relationships. As a result, these findings support previous research that shows that love is more essential in westernized, more developed, and individualistic countries, such as the United States, followed by Brazil, England, and Australia, and less important in developing countries. Eastern countries such as India, Pakistan, Thailand, and the Philippines are more hierarchical and collectivist. Japan and Hong Kong, two of Asia's least collectivist and most economically developed countries, placed a higher value on love. According to these studies, satisfying basic wants enables for the development of more personal fulfillment and expression demands, such as romantic love. Individualism and egalitarian cultural interactions elevate the relevance of internal characteristics and personal marital decisions. Couple, human psychology's fundamental principle, the strategies successful men use to attract women. People have a natural need to align their beliefs with their actions. This is referred to as the principle of commitment and consistency by psychologists. Once a person has changed their behavior, they modify their ideas to match their actions. The Bush-Cheney campaign utilized this technique in the 2004 American election, having campaign attendees sign a declaration indicating that they will vote for Bush. After performing the act of loyalty, the majority of the guests changed their minds to be more favorable to Bush. Market experts employ the principle of commitment and consistency in a variety of ways, including signatures. When a person commits to a course of action, they feel compelled to defend it to themselves. As a result, individuals act in accordance with their commitment, regardless of his political beliefs. The Bush campaign did a good job of attracting loyal supporters who were a force to be reckoned with, and those fans came to the polls on election day. In most circumstances, the commitment and consistency principle benefits us as individuals. We don't have time to digest all of the complex information in one situation if we've already done it in a previous situation because life is so complicated. Rather, we recall the initial decision we made and hold to it. Oh, this is exactly like when so and so happened, and I did such and such at the time. We think. Then we go ahead and do the thing. For example, if you need to go to a location in the same part of town as your workplace, you will get in your car and drive the same way you regularly used to work, rather than looking at a map to see if you can save time by taking a different route or street. This is usually advantageous because you would likely spend more time looking at the map than driving a slightly longer route. When it comes to interpersonal interactions, individuals often project attributes onto us based on how we have been treated. If they did us a favor, it was probably because we earned it, because we must possess some redeeming traits. Yes, you should never prevent a woman from showing you kindness. When she does you a favor, she boosts your positive impression because she believes you are deserving of it. Allowing women to do things for you, to put it another way, is a must. Allow her to make a payment if she so desires. "Oh no, I'll pay" is a phrase that should never be used. It would be fantastic if she offered to cook for you. Give it up. "I'll buy us a nice dinner." You should not say, "Stop in and be grateful. You deserve to have things done for you."